Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining this tutorial for our Burgundy berry wreath. If you've ordered, thank you so much. I can't wait to show you how to design the wreath that you've purchased. It's a really beautiful design, full of really lush sort of textures and tones, and we've got lots of different types of greenery that we'll be adding. But before we start, I just wanted to take you through exactly what you have in your wreath kit. So you've got your spruce base, and we've got a number of different foliage types. We've got some pine and some eucalyptus, and then tons of berries that we'll be using. We've also got some burgundy velvet ribbon as well, which will be for hanging. And the instructions you'll find in there, but most of what's in here I'll be talking you through today as well. But just a few things to note. We mentioned on the instructions that you may want to wear gloves for safety, particularly if children are helping you make your wreath. There can be a little bit of exposed wire on some of the sprigs, so best to put some gloves on if there's some children around. And also, if you wanted to use a hot glue gun, this is only really recommended if you wanted that extra hold on your wreath, perhaps if you're displaying it outside where it's exposed to the elements. It's not compulsory, but if you really wanted to ensure that everything is super tight, then add some hot glue. Great, so let's get started. Everyone, if you want to take your spruce base out, and once it's come out of the box, you'll find it's a little bit compact. So the first thing that we need to do is just loosen up the foliage and make it a little bit fuller. And so what I'm doing here is just gently pulling some of the sprigs outwards, and just adding a little bit more volume all the way around. And if you notice any gaps, don't worry, because we'll be adding plenty to it over the course of this tutorial. Great, so you can see it's already a little bit fuller and it's ready for the design. And before we get adding, I just want to draw your attention to the base. Just turning it around. And so the spruce base is really great. It's got this soft wire which acts a little bit like a net, which will be really brilliant for anchoring in our sprigs and making sure they hold. But then we also have a slightly thicker wire which has been spiraled around the base, and this we really want to use to hold in those slightly heavier stems and making sure that they're tied in really securely. So we're going to start with our pine to add to our spruce and kind of break up the foliage that we've got already. So this sort of really beautiful spiky pine, we have a number of different stems here. And just to show you how we add each individual stem, what we're going to do is gently pull apart some of the spruce to expose the base, and you can see then you've got the netting and the wire open here. And you just need to find part of the thicker wire where you can just hook your stem sprig just gently underneath the wire, and you'll notice that it's kind of anchored itself into the nest of the base. And once it's in there, just give it a really gentle tug just to make sure it's in securely, and then just pop your spruce back over the stem just to make sure that you've got that kind of natural flow from the different foliage. And you can just see here how it's moved from spruce to pine really naturally. So now I'm just going to add the remainder of my pine sprigs to the wreath, doing exactly the same thing, finding those thick wire areas of the base to hook my stems into, just to make sure they're nice and secure. And in terms of the direction of your sprigs, you want to sort of go with the flow of the spruce that's already on your base, just so you've got that nice circular shape, which is obviously so crucial for a wreath. So I'm just finding areas where it can do with a little bit of extra volume. Just inserting those stems in there. And once I've inserted it, I'm actually just separating out each individual strand so that they're kind of complementing the spruce and not sitting entirely on top, just so they're kind of naturally mixing together. Just got a few more pieces. So now that we've added some spiky pine, we've actually got some pine needles as well. So we've got a number of these, and they're all different sizes, and I just want to note the fact that the larger ones tend to look nicer on the outside of your wreath. And this is because they sort of sit along the edge and add a really beautiful silhouette to the wreath shape. And then the smaller ones, we can kind of do the same, but on the inside. And they just sort of slightly poke out. You want to make sure they're still embedded within the rest of your greenery. And then they just naturally sit along the edge like this and give that extra sort of spiky texture. So I'm just dispersing them quite evenly across the wreath and finding those areas of thick wire to hook the sprigs to so they don't fall off. It's another large one that I'm adding. And then I've got a couple of smaller ones. I'm just going to find some areas where I've got that thick wire, and they're just going to sit in the middle like that, slightly poking inwards. Perfect. Great, so now all the pine has been added, and I'll just show you how it's looking for the moment. So you can see that already we've got a little bit of differentiation between the greenery and a few pieces sticking out, but don't worry, we've got plenty more to add. So now we've added our pine, we're going to move on to our eucalyptus stems. So we have 4 different types of eucalyptus. We have blush eucalyptus, silver dollar, willow and blue gum, and they're all going to kind of be evenly dispersed across the wreath for some beautiful textures, and they've got really lovely silver tones which are going to look wonderful next to our burgundy berries. So I wouldn't worry too much about how you do this. I think just take each sprig and pop them around the wreath, inserting them into the nest. The eucalyptus has quite a skinny stem which is very useful for just inserting it into your wreath base. They'll anchor in on their own relatively easily, and just don't be afraid to manipulate each stem. You can bend them, they're all obviously on wire, and create some really gorgeous shapes along the outside and along the top. This blush eucalyptus I'm just going to add along the outside of the wreath here, and then it's just going to act as like a really stunning element to create a nice exterior. I'm going to take some of my willow eucalyptus. So this is a really gorgeous delicate leaf that, again, like I said, can be manipulated to create a kind of wild look. Just hooking that underneath and then bending it so that it's just adding volume upwards as well as outwards. And take my blue gum, again bending it slightly, adding it along the outside. I'm just going to repeat that all the way around, finding places to pop the sprigs so they're just naturally sitting in amongst the spruce and the pine. And if you want more inspiration, there's some visuals on our website which shows a finished result, and you can kind of use that for extra inspiration of where to place things. But I do like the whole just kind of embracing your own creativity, and if you don't like where something's placed, you can always go back and remove it and put it somewhere else. So it's nice and simple. Great, so I've added all of my eucalyptus. You can see here it's just mix it up nice and evenly, and it's obviously got some lovely bits poking out the edge. And like I said, if you wanted to take a look at it and reposition anything, you can do. But I'm pretty happy with how it looks at the moment. We've got a nice even spread of different types of foliage, and I think I'm ready to add our berries. So I've got a lovely basket here of burgundy tones. I'm going to start with our skimmier bunches. So these, we've got a number of different bunches here, and they just insert into the base really easily. And what you want to do is just spread them out nice and evenly across the wreath, paying attention to the top of the wreath. They've obviously got a really gorgeous texture that they're going to add to the design. So simply just exposing the base and inserting your skimmier buds all the way across your wreath. Great. So just to show you all, we've got all of our skimmiers just dotted around really naturally. It's shaping up really well. Next I'm going to add our red bird berries. As you can see here, they're really delicate. They've got lots of different tones in there, so they're going to work perfectly for our burgundy berry wreath. So with these, I'm just again going to disperse them really naturally across the wreath. And they're slightly heavier, these stems, so make sure you find those thicker pieces of wire in the base just to hook them in and make sure they stay put. Great, so that's the design with our berries added. I'm now going to add, we've actually got some blackberries, just a couple of these, just to add a little bit of a different texture to the wreath. And again, like with the other berries, we're just going to insert them and paying attention to finding areas where they're kind of more exposed on the wreath, maybe on the inside or poking out of the outside, so you can really, they don't get lost in the design. So I'm just finding an area here where they can just naturally fall on the inside of the wreath, just to show you, like this. So we're now ready for our final piece of the puzzle, and these are our burgundy rose hips. So we've got plenty of these, and the reason I waited till the end to add these on is because we kind of want them to sit on top of the wreath really naturally. They've got nice long stems which are easily inserted into the base. They're nice and skinny, so you won't struggle to insert them in. And they're just going to add that extra volume and sort of whimsical look to the wreath. So I'm just going to go all the way around, have a nice even dispersion along the top, and also the longer pieces will be concentrated along the outside, just to make sure that you've got that sort of beautiful circumference as well. Great, so now I've added all of our burgundy berries. You can see them here. The wreath is finished, so what you want to do is take a step back and look at everything that you've sort of added, and if you wanted to change the positioning of anything, just spend some time making sure that you're really happy with your final design. And I'm pretty happy with the way this one looks. I feel like it's ready to display, so now I'll tell you how to hook it up and display your wreath. So in your kit you'll find your twine and ribbon, and the reason you have both is so that you could use the twine to hook your wreath, and then the ribbon can be for a decorative piece. So what I'm going to do is take the twine, and you want to flip over your wreath. Try not to put it on its front because you'll lose some of that really beautiful volume that you've just created. And just take a bit of time to figure out where you want the front of your wreath to be. So I think I want the top to be here, just because it's got some really nice spikes and a lot of depth at the top there. So what I'm going to do is just try and hook the twine behind the wreath base, and just be a bit delicate here. You don't want to pull anything off. And just so that it's gone behind all the greenery and it's just flush to your base there. And then once you've done that, just tie a double knot. And then you've got that piece of twine to then hook to wherever you're displaying your wreath. So if you're hooking it to the door knocker, you can just tie your twine directly onto the door. If you've got a wreath hanger, you can do the same. It's just really versatile and it will hold it nice and tightly. Then we're moving on to the ribbon. So you can tie a ribbon to sort of wherever you want on the wreath. I'm going to focus on doing just a simple bow at the top. So a bit like the twine, you want to be able to create a knot around the base behind the greenery. So sort of the other way around, you want to just thread your ribbon really delicately behind the greenery, making sure that sort of avoiding all the twigs and sprigs. And then I've just got the ribbon nice and flush to the base there, and I'm just going to tie a really simple knot. And now it's just free to sort of make a bow, or if you wanted to leave it as a knot just hanging, you could do that as well. And then I just want to make sure that the ribbon is showing the velvet side as well. It's got this gorgeous burgundy tone which see matches the design perfectly. That's it. So that's my finished design. I hope you enjoyed making this wreath with me. I can't wait to see all of your designs that you've created. Please tag us and share on Instagram. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear from you. And yeah, thank you so much for joining, and Merry Christmas.